When a person cannot stop thinking about you, their energy begins to speak in ways the mouth cannot. Words can be shaped, rehearsed, and chosen to hide the truth, but energy has no filter. It moves before language, it travels before intention, and it communicates what the conscious mind tries to suppress. A man who carries you in his thoughts cannot disguise it for long. His tone, his timing, his gestures, even his stillness begin to echo your presence. The universe does not allow genuine feeling to remain hidden, for energy is the most honest messenger of the human heart. When someone speaks, listen not only to the words, but to the vibration beneath them. Words are the surface of the lake, but energy is the current underneath. A man may say he is fine, that he has moved on, that he doesn't think of you, but his energy will tremble when your name is mentioned. His posture changes slightly, his eyes linger a fraction longer, his breath deepens, his body remembers what his mind is trying to forget. Energy does not obey logic, it follows truth. In silence, this truth becomes even louder. When you are in someone's thoughts, the air between you feels charged. You sense it without effort. He may not reach out, yet you feel his presence pulling at your awareness as if some invisible thread connects your emotions. This is the realm of subtle perception, where energy reveals what words conceal. It is not seen by the eyes but felt by the body, and the more still you become, the more you can sense it. When a man can't stop thinking about you, he unconsciously transmits that energy. You might find yourself thinking of him at random moments, not realizing it is his focus that has reached you. Thoughts are not isolated. They are forms of energy that travel beyond distance. When emotion is strong, this current becomes magnetic. It pulls both hearts into resonance, even when separated by space and time. The more he resists, the stronger the current becomes because energy suppressed is energy intensified. Observe carefully how energy speaks through actions. A man who pretends indifference might still find reasons to appear where you are. He might casually mention things that remind him of you, or react emotionally to situations that involve you. These are not coincidences. They are the subconscious language of energy. When the heart is full but words are withheld, the body becomes the voice. He might protect you without admitting why, help you without seeking recognition, or quietly remember details about you that others overlook. Such actions are the echoes of thought turned into movement. Human beings often believe they can separate what they feel from what they do, but nature does not work that way. Every emotion is a vibration, and vibration must express itself. When someone feels deeply, their energy field changes. Their rhythm shifts. Even their habits begin to align with the direction of their thoughts. When a man's attention stays with you long enough, his choices begin to reflect it. You may notice his daily routine subtly influenced, songs he listens to, things he reads, places he visits, all revealing fragments of the same truth you exist in his mental landscape. In the Shaolin philosophy, awareness of energy is cultivated through stillness. One who observes quietly begins to see beyond behavior. If you train your perception, you will recognize the difference between deliberate action and energetic reaction. The latter arises naturally. It is not controlled, not planned, not performative. It is the body's spontaneous expression of what the heart contains. This is why words, however clever, eventually collapse under the weight of energy. Truth cannot remain hidden from one who sees with awareness. You may ask, why do people hide their feelings at all? Often it is fear of vulnerability, fear of rejection, fear of losing control. So they cover it with indifference, with distraction, with silence. But energy cannot be masked indefinitely. It leaks through the cracks of pretense. When he looks at you, his pupils widen slightly, his breath catches, his energy softens. These small details are the fingerprints of emotion. When you are centered, you can feel them clearly. You don't need confession, energy itself confesses. In relationships, this awareness becomes a compass. When someone's words confuse you, return to their energy. Does it bring calm or disturbance? Does it expand or restrict your own energy? When a man's thoughts dwell on you sincerely, his energy feels open, gentle, attentive. Even if he tries to distance himself, his presence will still carry warmth. But if his mind is scattered, his energy feels fragmented, uncertain. Energy reveals intention before intention becomes visible. You can sense this in conversation. The tone of voice carries frequency. The rhythm of breathing carries emotional truth. Even silence carries vibration. Sometimes a man says nothing, but the silence itself feels heavy with meaning. It is filled with all the words he could not bring himself to speak. In that silence, the energy of thought becomes almost tangible. You feel it as warmth in the chest, as intuition, as a knowing that cannot be explained logically. Understanding this truth changes how you relate to others. You stop chasing explanations. You stop demanding answers. You begin to read the invisible language, the one that never lies. When a man can't stop thinking about you, he might try to act normal, to hide behind ordinary gestures. But energy exposes the truth in every glance, every pause, every interaction. The eyes reveal what the tongue conceals. The body moves in alignment with what the heart holds. Even absence becomes communication. Because energy continues to move even when contact ceases. In this awareness, you become less reactive and more observant. You no longer cling to words as proof, because you have learned to sense what lives behind them. Energy reveals more than speech ever could. It shows where a person's attention truly rests. It shows whether affection is genuine or borrowed. It shows when someone's soul has already reached out long before their hands have. To those who can perceive it, energy becomes a mirror reflecting the unseen truths of love, thought, and intention. And in that reflection, everything hidden becomes visible. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, it is not his words that reveal his affection but his attention. Attention is the purest currency of energy. Where one's awareness flows, there the heart has already invested itself. You can say you care for many, but the truth of care is measured by presence, by how much attention you offer, by how deeply you observe, by how sincerely you listen. Affection without attention is illusion. To truly see someone, to truly feel their existence, is to give them a space in your consciousness that no one else occupies. In the modern world, attention has become scattered. People speak but rarely listen. They look but do not see. They spend time together but remain mentally elsewhere. That is why genuine attention feels sacred. It is rare. When someone's mind constantly returns to you, it means their energy has chosen a direction. Thoughts follow emotion, and emotion follows focus. When a man's focus begins to orbit around your presence, it is not mere fascination, it is resonance. Something in you has touched something in him, awakening recognition that logic cannot define. You can see this in the smallest gestures. He remembers the tone of your voice, the words you said in passing, the things that make you smile or withdraw. He notices the changes in your energy, even when you say nothing. Attention moves silently like the wind, yet you feel its touch. It is not loud or performative. It is consistent, subtle, and alive. A man may not confess his feelings openly, but his attention will always betray his emotion. It becomes the bridge between his inner world and yours. In Shaolin philosophy, attention is trained as the foundation of mastery. Whatever you attend to, you energize. Whatever you neglect, you weaken. This is not only true in meditation or martial discipline. It applies to relationships as well. When a man continuously directs his attention toward you, even when apart, he is feeding the connection with life force. His mind revisits moments shared, replays your words, imagines your presence. This continuous flow of focus is not accidental. It is energy-seeking union. His affection may remain unspoken, but attention speaks in every unseen way. To understand the depth of attention, one must first understand silence. It is in silence that real observation happens. When you quiet your own mind, you begin to perceive how someone's energy interacts with yours. If a man's attention is upon you, you feel it even without his presence. There is a warmth that lingers, a subtle awareness that follows you throughout the day. His energy reaches before his actions, for attention is already an act of giving. It is the invisible hand that connects two souls beyond touch. When you are in the company of someone who gives true attention, time feels different. The moment expands. The mind settles. You feel seen not as an image but as essence. In that gaze, there is no rush, no distraction, no attempt to change you. It is simply presence. Such attention heals because it acknowledges your existence without demand. In contrast, when attention is divided, affection feels empty. You sense it instantly. Eyes that wander, words that carry no weight, gestures that lack depth. Affection without attention is like sunlight without warmth. It illuminates but does not nurture. When a man's thoughts return to you often, it is because you live in the landscape of his awareness. You occupy mental space that cannot be replaced. His mind may wander, but it always circles back, drawn by the magnetic field of emotion. In every quiet moment, his attention searches for you in memory or imagination. This is not always romantic, it is energetic. Attention is how the soul communicates its preference, its alignment. The more he thinks of you, the more his energy harmonizes with yours, whether he admits it or not. Pay attention to how attention manifests. It may appear in small acts, checking if you're well, remembering details you've forgotten, responding quickly to your presence, or adjusting his behavior when you are near. These are not random, they are the body's expressions of focused awareness. His attention shapes his choices, the places he goes, the words he speaks. Even the pauses between his sentences begin to carry traces of you. The more he tries to conceal it, the more his energy reveals it. True attention requires vulnerability. To attend deeply means to open oneself, to allow another's presence to influence your inner state. Many avoid this because attention creates connection, and connection awakens responsibility. That is why genuine attention feels intimate. It cannot coexist with indifference. When a man gives you his consistent attention, he is giving you a part of his consciousness. He allows you to exist in his internal dialogue, his decisions, his dreams. This form of affection goes beyond physicality, it is devotion of awareness. In spiritual discipline, one learns that what you attend to you become. If a man continuously places his awareness upon you, he is unconsciously merging his energy with yours. He begins to reflect you in subtle ways, through language, mannerisms, or even emotional rhythm. This mirroring is the natural outcome of focused energy. It is how connection deepens, how affection transforms into unity. Attention is not only observation, it is participation in another's reality. There is also a balance in attention. It must not come from obsession or control, but from quiet appreciation. When attention is pure, it seeks nothing in return. It flows naturally, without demand. A man who truly values you does not force his focus. It arises spontaneously because his heart feels peace in your presence. His attention is steady, not desperate. It honors rather than consumes. In that calm devotion, affection becomes sacred. Attention also reveals the truth of priorities. Words can promise, but attention proves. If someone claims affection yet never invests presence, it is not love but habit. Energy follows the path of sincerity. If his attention is with you even when circumstances pull him elsewhere, then affection has taken root beyond convenience. It is not bound by situation, it lives in the silent corridors of his awareness. You can sense it in the way he listens, the way he notices your emotions, the way his energy shifts whenever you enter the room. In the end, attention is what defines the depth of connection. It is the thread that ties one consciousness to another. Every glance, every moment of listening, every silent act of care carries the weight of unseen affection. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, his attention has already declared what his words may hesitate to say. Attention is the heart's way of bowing to what it values most. It is the language of the soul, spoken not through speech, but through awareness, not through effort, but through presence, not through time, but through the depth of seeing. In a world filled with constant noise, endless words and fleeting attention, presence has become the rarest gift. Many people promise love, loyalty, or care, but their actions drift away like smoke in the wind. Promises are easy to make. Presence is difficult to sustain. Presence demands energy, attention, and sincerity. It is the proof that the heart is truly engaged. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, his presence begins to speak long before his words ever do. He may not always express what he feels, but you will sense him in the spaces between moments, in the silence that follows his absence, and in the subtle awareness that lingers even when he says nothing. Presence is not just physical, it is energetic, emotional, and spiritual. A person may stand beside you and still be distant, lost in thoughts elsewhere. Another may be miles away, yet you can feel them as if they are near. This is the difference between appearance and essence. Presence is the embodiment of connection. It is the meeting of energies, the merging of attention. When a man's thoughts are filled with you, his energy cannot hide it. He becomes attuned to your state, aware of your mood, sensitive to your silence. Even without words, his presence begins to mirror your emotions. This is how true connection communicates, not through promises but through resonance. Promises belong to the future, presence belongs to now. Words project intentions, but presence reveals truth. When someone says, "I care about you," those are words about what they intend to feel or do. But when they show up, when they listen deeply, when their attention stays steady even in your silence, that is presence. That is affection in motion. It cannot be rehearsed, and it cannot be faked. The energy of genuine presence carries stillness and depth. It does not rush, it does not seek validation. It simply is. When a man can't stop thinking about you, you begin to notice how his presence behaves differently. There is a quiet awareness in his movements. He listens longer. He observes more. He becomes protective without needing to declare it. His energy starts to align with yours naturally. He might not speak of devotion, but his actions create a silent atmosphere of care around you. This is the voice of presence. It does not argue or explain, it simply reveals. In Shaolin teaching, presence is the essence of mastery. The monk does not promise to be calm, he becomes calm. He does not speak of awareness, he lives in awareness. Similarly, in love or human connection, presence is the demonstration of truth. You can promise someone peace, but if your energy carries chaos, your words lose meaning. You can promise loyalty, but if your attention is scattered, the other person will still feel your absence. Presence is integrity of energy. It means your words, thoughts, and actions move in the same direction. When someone truly carries you in their thoughts, presence begins to transcend distance. You may not speak for days, yet you feel their awareness touching yours. You think of them suddenly, only to find they were thinking of you at the same moment. Energy follows consciousness. The more someone thinks of you with sincerity, the more their presence intertwines with yours in subtle ways. This is why sometimes, without reason, you sense someone's energy before they even reach out. Presence travels through thought, and thought travels through energy. When promises are made without presence, they collapse. Empty promises come from minds that speak faster than hearts can feel. But when presence exists, promises become unnecessary. You do not need to hear, "I care about you," when every gesture already shows care. You do not need to hear, "I miss you," when energy itself carries longing. Presence is the living proof of feeling. It makes words redundant. This is why those who live with awareness trust silence more than speech. They understand that what is real does not need constant expression. It simply radiates from being. Presence has weight. It changes the atmosphere of a room. When someone deeply connected to you enters, even without speaking, you sense the shift immediately. Their energy fills the space differently. It brings comfort, awareness, or restlessness depending on the depth of the bond. When a man's mind is filled with you, his presence carries that charge. He might act calm, but his energy vibrates in your awareness. You feel it as warmth, tension, or curiosity. Energy communicates in sensations that words cannot describe. True presence requires inner stillness. When the mind is restless, attention fractures and connection weakens. That is why many people fail to sustain genuine presence. They are too distracted, too consumed by their own noise. But when someone's thoughts keep returning to you, it means that even in the storm of daily life, their energy seeks your frequency. It is a silent meditation on your existence. Their presence becomes an anchor through which affection flows. Observe how presence reveals truth without any need for explanation. When someone genuinely values you, they show up not only in moments of joy but also in moments of difficulty. They stay aware when others turn away. They notice when your energy changes. They respond not because they must, but because they are attuned to you. Such presence is not dependent on words or roles. It comes from alignment of the heart. In this way, presence speaks the language of commitment without ever making a promise. Presence also exposes pretension. You can listen to words and be misled, but you can never mistake the energy of real presence. You can feel when someone is fully there or when they are only performing attention. Real presence feels grounding. It calms your nervous system, softens your thoughts, and brings stillness. False presence feels restless, empty, or forced. When someone's energy is divided, you sense it instantly, no matter how polished their words are. Energy never lies. When a man can't stop thinking about you, his presence begins to leave imprints in your world. You might feel his awareness when you are alone, as if some invisible connection keeps whispering in the background. You might notice signs, messages arriving at perfect timing, his name appearing unexpectedly, or random thoughts that pull you toward him. These are reflections of energetic presence. When consciousness connects deeply, it communicates beyond physical means. In this awareness, you start to understand that love is not proven by promises, but by presence. Words are the shadow, presence is the light. A person may promise the world and deliver nothing, while another may say nothing yet offer everything through their steady awareness. Presence requires effortlessness. It is born from authenticity. You cannot force it because it flows from genuine feeling. It is a state of being that radiates truth without needing to convince anyone. Presence is the language of the soul, and it speaks only through energy. You cannot fake it, measure it, or contain it. When someone's heart is awake toward you, their presence carries that awareness like fragrance carries the memory of a flower. It moves with them, surrounds them, and reaches beyond their body. It is felt in silence, in absence, in the unseen spaces between two breaths, between two thoughts, between two souls who recognize each other. Without a single promise spoken, every action that a human being takes is born from an inner state. The surface may appear calm or deliberate, but underneath every gesture lies a movement of energy, either in harmony or in conflict. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, his actions begin to reveal whether his mind is resting in stillness or lost in turmoil. No matter how composed the exterior may seem, the inner world always writes itself into behavior. Words can disguise intention, but energy shapes motion, and motion never lies. Inner stillness is a condition of clarity. It is not the absence of thought, but the absence of disturbance within thought. It is when the heart is steady and the mind moves with awareness rather than impulse. From stillness comes conscious action, calm, centered, and consistent. In contrast, inner turmoil is the state of divided energy. It is when emotion fights logic, when desire clashes with fear, when the body acts faster than awareness can follow. From turmoil comes reaction, chaotic, uncertain, and contradictory. When a man is caught between the pull of his feelings and the weight of his resistance, his actions begin to fluctuate like waves in a restless sea. Stillness expresses itself in simplicity. You can sense it in the way someone moves, listens, and responds. When a person acts from inner stillness, there is precision in their presence. They do not rush, they do not perform, and they do not act to impress. Their energy is grounded. Every gesture carries intention, not confusion. If a man feels deeply for you yet rests in stillness, he will act with quiet consistency. He does not need to exaggerate his feelings. His steadiness becomes the proof. His words align with his actions because there is no storm between them. His affection flows naturally, like a river following its course, gentle but unstoppable. But when affection rises from inner turmoil, everything becomes erratic. The man who cannot stop thinking about you, but has not yet found inner peace, will oscillate between closeness and withdrawal. One day he will reach out with intensity, and the next, he will vanish into silence. His actions will reflect the conflict within him, the desire to move forward and the fear of losing control. Turmoil breeds inconsistency. You may see care in one moment and confusion in the next. This is not deception, it is the result of an unbalanced mind trying to manage emotions it does not yet understand. In Shaolin philosophy, the mastery of self begins with mastering one's energy. When energy is balanced, movement becomes art. When energy is disturbed, movement becomes noise. In human connection, this principle is the same. If a man's inner world is balanced, his affection flows naturally, respectfully, and clearly. His presence calms you. His silence feels safe. But if his inner world is filled with conflict, his affection feels like fire, bright, consuming, and unstable. He may act with passion, but his passion carries tension. His gestures will often carry a hint of unease because his actions are not flowing from stillness, but from resistance. You can observe this difference without needing words. Stillness feels grounded, it brings peace. Turmoil feels restless, it brings uncertainty. A man acting from stillness will move toward you with patience, understanding, and gentleness. He will not need to control the connection because he trusts it. A man acting from turmoil will rush, hesitate, overthink, and retreat. His energy feels unsettled because his mind is divided between what he feels and what he fears. He may promise presence, but his actions will reveal hesitation. This is how energy betrays illusion. Inner stillness is cultivated through awareness. It comes from observing the mind without judgment, allowing emotion to rise and pass like clouds across the sky. When one learns to witness feeling rather than react to it, clarity emerges. In relationships, this clarity allows action to come from authenticity rather than insecurity. A man rooted in stillness acts not because he needs to prove, but because he wishes to share. His gestures carry mindfulness. Even a small act, listening, waiting, being silent, becomes powerful because it is done from presence. Inner turmoil, however, thrives in the absence of awareness. It feeds on overthinking, attachment, and fear. The man who cannot stop thinking about you yet has not learned stillness, will try to suppress his feelings, but the suppression itself becomes action. He may avoid you, distract himself, or act indifferent, yet every attempt to distance himself reveals his inner battle. His actions will contradict his emotions, not out of insincerity, but because the energy within him is divided. What he does and what he feels exist in two separate directions. To the one who observes, this pattern becomes clear. When you are aware, you no longer listen to words, you read energy. You can tell when someone's touch comes from peace or from anxiety. You can feel when attention flows from appreciation or from need. You can sense whether a gesture arises from love or from longing for control. All these differences come from the origin point, the inner state. Actions are the ripples, but the source is always the stillness or turbulence of the heart. A still heart acts gently, but decisively. It does not chase, nor does it retreat. It moves according to truth, not fear. When a man's love grows from stillness, it brings calm into your space. His affection is not loud but reliable. His silence is not absence but presence. He acts without hurry because he trusts the rhythm of connection. In contrast, a heart filled with turmoil will struggle to remain consistent. His affection will appear intense yet unstable. His silence will feel heavy because it comes from avoidance, not awareness. The energy of turmoil seeks escape. The energy of stillness seeks understanding. In ancient training, the monk learns that every strike, every movement, every breath must arise from stillness. Without it, technique becomes violence. In emotional life, the same is true. When love arises from inner turmoil, it becomes attachment, possession, or confusion. When it arises from stillness, it becomes harmony. The quality of the action depends on the quality of the mind behind it. If the mind is turbulent, even acts of affection will feel chaotic. If the mind is still, even the smallest act will carry peace. Every human being carries both within. The potential for stillness and the habit of turmoil. The difference lies in awareness. The man who becomes aware of his inner storm begins to calm it. The more he understands his emotions, the more his actions begin to stabilize. You will see this transformation not in promises, but in subtle shifts. His patience increases, his reactions soften, his energy becomes clearer. He no longer acts from the pressure to express, but from the peace of understanding. When someone cannot stop thinking about you, their inner world becomes visible through their movement. If they act from stillness, their energy invites you into peace. If they act from turmoil, their energy pulls you into confusion. The key is not in the words they say, but in the vibration behind every gesture. From the quiet depth of stillness, love becomes steady, grounded, and enduring. From the restless waves of turmoil, it becomes erratic, fleeting, and unpredictable. Actions always flow from one of these two sources, the clarity of presence or the confusion of the storm within. In the silent dialogue between two souls, words matter far less than rhythm. Anyone can speak beautifully, anyone can promise deeply, but only consistency reveals truth. Consistency is not built in the mouth, it is built in the heart. It is the steady movement of energy that refuses to fluctuate with circumstance or emotion. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, it is not the intensity of his gestures that exposes his feelings, but the pattern of his presence, the way his energy keeps returning again and again, even after time or distance tries to interfere. Consistency is how the soul speaks when the mind has run out of words. Human nature often confuses excitement with connection. The mind seeks novelty, yet the soul seeks rhythm. The initial spark between two people may create noise and passion, but it is consistency that gives that spark meaning. When a man's thoughts repeatedly find their way back to you, when his actions align day after day, without the need for performance, that is when affection becomes real. Energy that repeats itself is energy anchored in truth. It does not rush, it endures. It does not burn fast, it glows quietly, like an inner flame that refuses to go out. Consistency is not about perfection or predictability. It is about alignment. It means that the words, emotions, and actions of a person come from the same source within. It means their outer gestures are reflections of an inner truth that remains steady, even when the world around them shifts. When someone's soul has chosen connection, you will feel it through their steadiness. They do not disappear when it becomes inconvenient. They do not change tone depending on their mood. They do not offer affection one day and distance the next. Their energy remains grounded because their feeling is genuine. In Shaolin philosophy, discipline is the expression of sincerity. To repeat an act with mindfulness every day is to declare devotion without words. Whether it is in training, meditation, or relationship, consistency reveals what truly matters to the heart. The one who returns again and again to the same path does so not out of habit, but out of reverence. The same is true for love. When a man keeps showing up with patience, attention, and care, it means his heart has found stillness in that connection. He may not speak often of it, but his consistency will speak on his behalf. Inconsistency, on the other hand, comes from inner conflict. It is the mark of a heart that has not yet decided which truth to follow. When affection is genuine but ungrounded, it fluctuates like the wind. One day the energy moves toward closeness. The next, it retreats in fear. You can feel the difference between energy that is centered and energy that is confused. The inconsistent man might feel deeply, but his actions will contradict his emotions because his inner world is not yet in harmony. He speaks from love but acts from hesitation. His soul wants connection, but his mind creates distance. True consistency cannot be forced. It arises naturally from authenticity. When the heart is true, it repeats itself without effort. You do not need to remind someone who genuinely cares to stay present. Presence becomes their natural state. A consistent person is not trying to convince you of anything. They are simply being who they are. Their rhythm is their truth. When they give, it is not to gain. When they show up, it is not to impress. They act because their soul finds peace in that action. That is why consistency feels so different from routine. One is mechanical, the other is sacred. A man who cannot stop thinking about you will begin to reveal his consistency through patterns that the conscious mind barely notices. He may not speak to you daily, but his energy always returns. He may not make grand gestures, but his small actions accumulate meaning. He remembers details without trying. He notices your emotions before you voice them. He appears when you need grounding, not out of obligation, but because something within him moves instinctively toward your presence. That is the language of the soul, subtle repetition born from truth. Consistency does not always mean constant interaction. Sometimes it means stable energy. Even in absence, a consistent soul leaves behind peace rather than confusion. When you think of them, you feel calm instead of anxious. When you connect again, it feels as if no time has passed. That is the effect of steady energy. It transcends distance and time. It sustains connection not through force, but through quiet endurance. In a world addicted to intensity, consistency feels like silence, but it is the silence that lasts long after the noise fades. In spiritual practice, repetition refines the spirit. The monk repeats the same movement, the same breath, the same posture until the action dissolves into awareness. In love, consistency serves the same purpose. It dissolves the ego's need for drama and reveals the soul's capacity for steadiness. Through consistent action, love becomes less about possession and more about devotion. It transforms from emotion into presence, from desire into understanding. The one who is consistent lives love rather than declaring it. Consistency is also a form of respect. It says, "You matter enough for me to remain steady even when I am tired, uncertain, or afraid." It is a way of saying, my affection is not a reaction, it is a state of being. When a man acts from this space, his actions carry peace instead of pressure. You can feel that his consistency comes from inner clarity, not from need. He gives because giving is part of his nature. His steadiness invites safety. His repetition becomes trust. In contrast, inconsistency weakens connection because it confuses energy. When someone's presence feels unpredictable, your spirit cannot relax. You begin to question the authenticity of their feelings, not because of lack of emotion, but because of lack of rhythm. The soul understands patterns. It finds comfort in what repeats. That is why consistency is the language of truth. It creates harmony between what is said and what is done, between what is promised and what is lived. In the quiet space of reflection, you begin to see that consistency is not an external performance, it is the reflection of an internal alignment. When a man's mind, heart, and actions move in the same direction, his energy becomes clear and his presence becomes healing. His consistency reveals not just his affection, but his maturity, his discipline, and his depth of understanding. He no longer seeks temporary connection, he seeks resonance that endures. When you observe someone's actions over time, you witness their soul speaking through behavior. You notice how they respond when things are easy and when they are not. You see whether they show up only when it benefits them or whether they remain present even when the feeling quiets. These patterns are the footprints of the soul. They tell you everything words cannot. Because in the end, the truest sign of love is not how passionately one begins, but how faithfully one continues. And the soul, in its purest expression, speaks not in noise, not in promises, but in rhythm, repetition, and the gentle constancy of presence. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, the energy of his thoughts begins to move beyond his mind. The universe has a mysterious way of translating inner focus into outer experience. What lives in the consciousness of one person can ripple outward and reach another through signs, timing, and coincidence. It may appear subtle at first, a name appearing where you least expect it, a song playing that carries a memory, a message arriving just as you thought of him. But these are not accidents. They are reflections of energetic connection, evidence that thought is not contained within the mind, but travels through the unseen fabric that connects all living things. When you are in his mind, the world begins to remind you. Thought is a vibration, and vibration moves through space, time, and form. When someone's focus is constant, that vibration gathers strength and resonance. A man who holds you in his awareness creates a frequency that your own energy begins to sense. You might wake up thinking of him for no apparent reason, or feel his presence suddenly in the middle of a busy day. The logical mind tries to explain it as memory or coincidence, but energy does not obey logic. It follows alignment. When two people share a connection strong enough, their awareness begins to interact even in silence. In the teachings of awareness, everything that appears around you is a mirror. The outer world reflects the inner world, and energy always finds a way to express what the heart holds. When someone's thoughts are filled with you, life begins to organize subtle reminders. It is as if the universe becomes the messenger of what the person cannot say aloud. You notice patterns, his initials showing up repeatedly, people mentioning him unexpectedly, circumstances leading you back to places you once shared. The more he thinks, the more you feel. The more emotion he suppresses, the louder the signs appear, because energy seeks expression even when words are withheld. Presence does not end with physical distance. When emotion is powerful, it leaves traces in the energetic field that surrounds both people. If you are quiet enough within yourself, you begin to perceive this field. You sense thoughts not as words, but as sensations. An image appearing suddenly, a feeling that does not belong to your current mood, a sudden wave of calm or longing that seems to come from nowhere. In truth, it comes from the shared vibration between minds that are connected. The world serves as the translator of that unseen dialogue. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, his thoughts form a current that unconsciously seeks your awareness. This current can influence events, timing, and interactions. You might find that you cross paths unexpectedly, that your schedules align, or that communication happens at the exact moment both of you are about to reach out. These are the reflections of energetic synchronization. The universe arranges circumstances according to frequency. When two frequencies match, alignment appears in the physical world as what we call coincidence. You can observe this in your daily experiences. There are moments when something inside you stirs without a visible cause. A sudden warmth in the chest, a gentle pressure in the mind, a quiet pull that makes you pause. When that happens, the mind often tries to rationalize it, but awareness knows it as recognition. Energy travels before intention, and intuition receives before intellect understands. The more open you are to the subtle, the more clearly you perceive the language of reminders. It is not that the world changes its structure, it is that your awareness sharpens to recognize what was always there. When you exist in someone's constant thoughts, your energy becomes attuned to theirs. The field between you becomes like an invisible thread stretching across distance but never breaking. Each thought, each emotion travels along that thread like a wave. You feel the echo before the mind identifies its source. The world simply amplifies what already exists in that energetic exchange. In Shaolin understanding, energy follows attention. Whatever you place your mind upon, you give life to. If a man's mind consistently returns to you, he is feeding that connection with vitality. His thoughts do not vanish. They transform into subtle vibrations that enter the shared space of awareness. The more focus he gives, the more presence you begin to feel. This is why deep bonds seem to defy logic. Even when communication stops, the awareness remains active. You find reminders everywhere because the energy between you continues to express itself through the fabric of experience. Sometimes these reminders arrive when you need them most. When doubt creeps in, something small happens to remind you of the connection. A word, a sign, a random occurrence carrying emotional weight. The universe operates through patterns, and energy always seeks recognition. When you acknowledge the reminder with awareness instead of disbelief, you strengthen the flow. The connection feels more alive, not because of imagination, but because attention amplifies vibration. In that moment, the world becomes the mirror of shared thought. You may also notice how his energy affects your emotions without direct contact. You wake up with a sense of peace or restlessness that does not belong to your own rhythm. You find yourself feeling what he cannot express. This is energetic empathy, the silent communication that occurs when two energies resonate. It is the same phenomenon that allows you to sense when someone is staring at you or when a loved one is upset even before they speak. When emotional energy is intense, it moves faster than words. The universe, in turn, begins to align symbols around you to make the invisible visible. When you are deeply connected with someone, you start to live within each other's awareness. His focus becomes your intuition, your feelings become his reflection. The reminders you see around you are not random. They are signals that both energies are active. The more you calm your mind, the more clearly you perceive them. If your awareness is distracted, the signs still occur, but you pass them by unnoticed. Stillness sharpens perception, silence makes recognition possible. The world constantly speaks, but few know how to listen. When a man cannot stop thinking about you, his thoughts echo through the shared field of consciousness. You feel it in moments of stillness, in dreams, in sudden memories that rise without cause. The connection becomes a current running beneath the surface of your daily life. Even if he remains silent, his energy reaches out. It finds you through symbols, through timing, through the rhythm of the day itself. The more he resists his feelings, the more persistent the reminders become, because energy that is denied seeks other ways to exist. In this quiet awareness, you begin to see that every encounter, every coincidence, is part of a larger conversation that energy conducts beyond words. The universe does not speak in sentences. It speaks in repetition, alignment, and reflection. When someone's thoughts are strong enough, they move through this universal language and appear as events that seem too precise to be accidental. The world becomes the canvas on which thought paints its signature, revealing that you live not only in his memory, but in the rhythm of his consciousness, and through that rhythm, the entire world becomes a messenger carrying his silent awareness toward you